Hey guys, and welcome to Functional Print Friday, and welcome back to my shop. So honestly, I wasn't even sure if we were going to do a video this week. I've been traveling on vacation all week, and normally I work on Functional Print Friday videos in the evening after my day job throughout the week. Haven't been here all week, and I've really only got just today to work on it. I am off today. It's Friday right now. So let's see how much we can get done, but might not be able to actually finish this project, especially since I think the final print for this is going to be pretty big, but let's see. So back in, I think January, I picked up some of these Klein T-handle wrenches specifically for the lathe. I wanted the common sizes that I use to lock and unlock things, and particularly to adjust the compound slide on that lathe. I just wanted the stuff handy, and I wanted the stuff to be easy to use even if my hands were dirty. And picked up a couple different sizes of these, and I find myself really liking these Klein T-handle wrenches. Nothing here sponsored. I paid for everything here out of my own pocket. I had these two nice sets of the Vapora hex wrenches for a while. These are nice. They have like a ball end on one side and just like a straight one on the short side. These are nice, and these are my go-to sets if like I'm walking somewhere to use a hex wrench. In other words, like I'm not standing right here in my shop. Or even if I'm going over to the car or something I'm working on and I don't know what size it is, I'll grab these because it's nice to have every size. The downside to these are they are a bit tricky to get in and out. It's nice that they stay all organized and together, but there's some effort required to pull this out. And then now you're done with it, you got to slide it back in. Like if you just need a hex wrench for something quickly, you end up spending a fair amount of time just getting the wrenches out and putting them back in. But these are still my favorite sets for like if I just need to have the whole set with me, or if I'm going someplace to work on something, maybe I'm going to my barn, whatever, I take these. But I increasingly find myself really, really liking these Klein T-handles. Like if I know what size I need, I'm working on something, maybe I'm taking something apart, I know I need, say, the 6 and the 3, and just to have these handy because I can just pick them up, use them. So back in March, I ordered full sets of these Klein ones in the 6-inch. Let me grab those. So the Imperial set, or SAE, whatever you want to call it, this came right away. This came within like a week after I ordered it. And the metric one, even though I ordered these in March, this one finally just came this week. It actually came while we were gone, which was a nice surprise when I got back because I really wasn't sure if I was even going to get it anymore. And it's nice to have all the sizes, but you notice I didn't even take the labels off the Imperial ones because I always intended to make my own holders for these. The T-handle wrenches themselves are really, really nice. They're a nice hard material. They don't seem to be rounding over or wearing anywhere. They're really, really comfortable to hold, but the rack or the holder that they come in is it's crap. I can't think of another way to say it. And I guess this is how they all come. It's not like Klein has done something here that's just terrible. I know this is a standard, metal rack that, T-handle wrenches like this have come in for, I don't know, probably 100 years. But what I don't like about it is if you're just working quickly, like let's say I need the 5/32, I grab this one and I go to put it back. Okay, well now I have to be perfectly lined up with that hole, okay? And then it gets worse because I have to be perfectly lined up with this lower hole as well. So you really have to slow down, line it up, make sure you're perfectly straight up and down, drop it through the second hole, and then you're in. So if you're just working quickly, you want to grab a wrench, okay, up 5/32. Nope, it's the 3/16. All right, let me get this one back in the 3. I mean, I'm exaggerating a bit, but you can't be quick, and that's the whole point. If I wanted to take the time to get the wrenches in and out, I'd probably just use the Vapora set, but I'm addicted to doing things quickly. I like working on things. I don't like, the time it takes to fight with getting tools in and out of things. I guess it's hard to explain. I like moving quickly in the shop, and it's hard to move quickly in the shop with this style of holder. So, like I said, ever since I've ordered these, I knew I wanted to design my own holder for these, and I also have a specific spot that I want to try and fit them into. So to do that, I think we're going to need to turn this set around the other way. So let me flip all these around. All right, let me move the tripod. I'll show you where I would ideally like to fit these guys. Okay, so at the end of this particular toolbox, I have the holy grail of unused space. And I know it doesn't look very big, but I think we can make this work. Let me go grab those wrenches. Okay, so if I try and set these in here, you can see it actually kind of fits even just like that, but they're not going to stay. Like this one's setting up on top of the other one. And I really can't see the ones at the back. This is up quite high. Let's see, I'm 6 foot tall, and this is about my eye level right here. So I can't really see these that great. What I'm thinking is I'd like to have them up like this. So up at like a compound angle, which is going to make this very difficult and why I'm not sure that we're actually going to finish this today. But I do want to at least get this started. So I'm holding them up, I don't know, maybe that's somewhere between 35 and 50 degrees. I'm also turning them outward, so like away from each other. And I'm also turning, I guess I'm moving the front sort of closer together. If I could magically hold them in like that position, somewhere around there. They also kind of key together there, if you notice, rather than trying to line them up like that. That's not bad either. But then we're too wide, I think. I have to work within, we've got just this width as well, because there's like a steel divider here in the toolbox. So I'm thinking something like, yeah, something like that, or like that. All right, so the obvious thing that's going to be really tricky here is measuring all those angles. And I don't think I'm going to be able to get them perfectly, because I'd have to hold this and then magically have room to get in there to measure everything while I'm doing it. So I think I'm going to try and take one element at a time. I think I'm going to maybe get the rise like this angle. Actually, even steeper. Yeah, even that's kind of nice. All right, so I'm going to take one out. I'm going to try and measure this angle. I'll try and measure the sort of angle of the V because I'm turning them away from each other. And then I guess the position, maybe I could measure like the distance between the holes. Obviously we're going to have to model all of the spacing and the different size holes. That should be pretty easy because we can, I think, largely copy what's already done. You can see they've already figured out what the correct spacing is for all these handles to sit nice against each other. And I do want that because if you notice, if I angle this up like this, they kind of fall downward like that. And if you take one out, they really can't move. Now, if you take two out, they can. But see, this one can't angle down because it's bumping up against this one. And this one can't really turn either because it's pushing against all these. Now, if you take out more than one, they kind of start to go wonky, but they still sort of push back into place once you get one in. So, all right, maybe the first thing that we should do is just model, we'll take the shorter one, the metric set, is maybe just model sort of this rectangle and the hole size to get an idea of what spacing we need, because these holes always close up a little bit. Like if I measure and model this to be the exact same diameter of that hole, I know it's going to close up a little bit when we 3D print it. And these are a pretty nice fit. We don't want the hole to be too big because then we'll sort of lose that nice like self-aligning feature. And we'll probably do like sort of like a funnel at the top, or like a nice big roundover, so we don't have to be exactly on that hole. It's also hard to see that hole when they're all in place here, and it's going to be even harder to see it when we've got two sets in here. So we'll definitely need to make that like a funnel, so as long as we're close, it kind of forces it in, and then we won't have to worry about the second hole because ours is not going to be bent sheet metal. It'll be solid material all the way down the sides of the hole to guide those in. So, all right, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go take this one up to my desk. I'm going to measure this one out. We'll model this one, print it out, and just see how things fit. All right, and here is what I came up with, just basically modeling what we already had in the existing stand, duplicating it as a starting point just to figure out what our bore sizes need to be to get the same sort of slip fit that the steel part has, and then also testing out the sort of funnel top here, which is a 5mm roundover. Probably the easiest way to see what's going on is just to whack the side. You can see I've got the bores. Basically, I just duplicated the overall length of the current steel holder, which was that top plate, and then a second hole that each one of these drops through, and then the bottom plate they just sit against. So overall this is a little bit taller because the bottom of these bores essentially represents what was the wrench hitting against that bottom plate. But yeah, I think it's good to stop here. It's really tempting to keep going, but it's good to stop here, print this out, and just see how everything fits before we do any more modeling. So that's exactly what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna slice this up, I'm gonna get it printed out, and I will bring you guys back. All right, our test print finished, and it looks really good. Looking at the rounded top here, I'm not sure if we went big enough. Now, let's try it. Yeah, I mean, it's still, you don't have to be dead on. As long as you're close to that funnel, it drops it in, but you do, I mean, gotta be within, well, I think we did a 5mm round over, so I guess you probably gotta be within about 4mm of the edge of the hole, which isn't bad. Definitely better than it was. Yeah, I can drop these in a lot faster with this guy, and it looks like our fit is right. They all seem to be sitting in there the same way they were before. I am noticing, why does this guy look lower? Pretty sure I have all these the same depth. I probably should have paid more attention. Let's put him back in this guy. Yeah, it's actually lower here too, so we didn't screw that up. So the original designer of the holder here is working with the limitation of just having one flat surface. We inadvertently duplicated that sort of, not error, but limitation. We don't have that same limitation, so we could actually raise that bore up a little bit because there's no reason for that 4mm in this case to sit lower than the other ones. We can raise that up. Yeah, I'll measure that, we'll raise that up. But the other ones all look good. So seeing this done, I think what I'm gonna do is model the SAE or the Imperial one the same way as this. I'm feeling like it's going to be too difficult to try and model that crazy shape with all those angles on its own. It might be easier to model each of these first, then position these in all the compound angles that I think we need to do to get that where I want it, and then just sort of fill in the blanks with geometry. All right, guys, welcome back to my design space. So it has been a busy morning. I think where we left off was I said I was going to draw the Imperial one or the SAE one the same as we did the metric one. I went ahead and did that. We don't really have time to print this one out and see how everything fits. I'm not really worried anyway because I just pretty much repeated the same design elements from this one. So I measured the bore size in the stamped steel one and then just added 0.2 to each dimension. That got us to good fits on the metric one, so that should be fine. And then I went into trying to figure out how to get these to be all of the compound angles that we need to make this work, and then also within the constraint of that space. So here you can see I started just trying to take some measurements and just sort of start angling these. Quickly realized that I was getting out of the dimensions of that space, so I went and modeled just sort of a box that represents that sort of slot in the side of the toolbox that these are going to sit into. And I messed with the angles until everything was both clear of the sides and also pretty close to the angles that I measured to get everything to fit. Once I got to that point, I shaved a little off the sides. So the way I modeled these, actually that was done in these here. I was going to say, so if you look at these ones here, you can see that the bore isn't centered. I modeled these to match the steel ones, and for whatever reason they were off center in the steel ones, probably for a better balance if I had to guess. We don't have that constraint, so I shortened it up so that each one of these sides are basically that the bores are centered within the parts. The reason I did that is because we need all the space we can get, particularly from the base, to angle these guys both outward at the top and to spread them apart at the back. I really need every little bit of space. I think I only have 1.5 millimeters here and 1.5 millimeters over here. Yeah, we could shrink that down a little bit further, but we actually do get into those 5mm roundovers pretty quick, particularly up here at the top. I think there is only either 2 or 3 millimeters between the edge of our roundover and the edge. And then from there, I duplicated these again, and you can see the final one here. I just started connecting the dots. There's probably a better way to do this, but I'm running out of time, and I just want to get to the point where I can print this out and test fit everything to see if it lines up where I want. There's about I think a 21 degree angle between these, but then it's connected by a straight section. These ended up being angled upwards. I think I did 41 degrees, and then I spread apart the back. There's a whole lot of guessing here, and that's why I want to get this one printed out and see where we're at. And when I say connecting the dots, I mean I literally just started drawing geometry between the different pieces here so that we get the faces that we need for this to print. And then, you know, I duplicated the box as well, so that the bottom portion of this that's going to fit inside this is a rectangle. This does splay outwards at the top, and that's just fine. We're not constrained with the width on the print. We're just constrained with the width down here at the bottom where it needs to fit into the toolbox. All right, let's pull this into the slicer and see how much this is going to hurt. This part ended up being, once I started connecting all the dots here, this thing's really starting to look pretty big. So let's pull this into Bamboo Studio and see what it says. All right, good news, it fits on the bed just fine. Bad news, I grossly underestimated how long this thing is going to take to print. So I did the original test, just the metric side at a 0.16 millimeter layer height, which is what I would ultimately like this part to be. But you can see that this thing is going to take 1 day, 15 hours, and 27 minutes to print out. So that is not going to work. Let me see how fast I can make this happen on my X1C with the 0.6 nozzle at a much taller layer height. All right, so I switched over to my X1 Carbon with a 0.6 nozzle, and I upped the layer height to 0.42 millimeters, almost half a millimeter per layer. That is the highest setting that I can choose from the default options here. And I don't think I'd want to go any bigger than that anyway. I mean, that's almost half a millimeter per layer. This thing's probably going to be pretty ugly, but that's okay. If it gets us to, you know, being able to actually test where we're at so far, it's job done. I also had to lowered the bottom shell layers from 3 down to 2, and the top shell layers, I'm going to leave it at 3, but I did knock the infill down to 10%. So I have a feeling that 3 top shell layers is probably not going to be enough. We're probably going to have some drooping. But again, that's okay. As long as we're able to test the position of everything with this and just see how all of the different locations relate to each other, and if it fits in the toolbox, it's job done for this. This is just going to be a draft part. The good news is this is down now to a 7-hour and 35-minute print, which it's a little afternoon right now. So yeah, this video is probably going to be getting out pretty late, but I can stomach that. If this thing gets done inside of 8 hours, I think there'll still be some time to test this part, shoot some more video, and get things edited. So, all right, I'm going to hit print, and I will bring you guys back. All right, well, good news. It's still Friday and this finished. Bad news, in the 6+ years I've been 3D printing stuff, this has got to be the worst quality print that I have ever made. But it did finish. It's actually, looking at the back of it, it looks kind of neat. You have these the layers are almost half a millimeter thick. I think we did 0.42, if I recall. 2 top layers, so yeah, we can see the infill through it, but in kind of a mesmerizing, consistent way. The problem is the holes. As you can imagine, the layer height is so coarse that yeah, the larger ones might be okay. I'll be really surprised if we can actually get the hex wrenches into these smaller holes. Checking on this thing while it was printing, these bores looked an absolute mess. It looked like someone just some of them looked like they were done with a 3D pen, freehand, rather than with a 3D printer. So, all right, let's try it. Okay, the metric ones all actually fit in. Some of them are really tight. The 5, for whatever reason, is really tight. So is the 4. The 3, 2.5, and 2 are actually, they're not a bad fit. And the 8's tight too, which doesn't make a lot of sense. 10's got plenty of space. I think our layers were just so thick. It was just sort of luck of the draw as to whether the printer managed to do that whole bore without having a layer that's sort of laid over on top of another one. Let's try the other ones. Okay, this one, maybe? No, that's going to get stuck in there. That one does not fit. I don't think this one does either. Oh, it's going. Add the 8th one in. There we go. Okay. So below 5/32, they're pretty much just all jammed in there. All right, same kind of deal. Some of these are really tight, like the 1/4 is really tight. As you can see, the 7/64 is pretty much just almost hammered in, and this one I couldn't get to go in at all. You know what? Let me actually try to drill that out. It's plausible, right? Of course, would help if we actually had the right one. Oh, yeah, it's I think let's just obstruct the top. That actually goes in pretty freely now. This one does not, but it was in there. Okay, actually got them all in. I'm realizing that I forgot to adjust the depth of these bores. It's the same thing on the Imperial set. The last one in the small sizes, this one's sitting high too, but that's probably just crap down in our hole that I drilled out. This one sits a little bit lower than the rest of these. Same thing with the 4mm on this set. And they are further apart than I want. I wanted them closer together. I guess that does give us more room to sort of see the center here if we mark the sizes. I haven't decided if I'm going to mark the sizes of these yet because they're marked on the wrenches, right? So if I've got multiple ones out, it might be nice to have it marked. I was going to say if we move them closer together, we're not going to see it anyway, but we will if the wrenches are out because it's the handles. You know what, let's go over to the toolbox and see how it looks in there. All right, see if I got the dimensions right here for this to drop in. Yep, it's actually pretty much perfect left to right. Back and forth, the reason the base is smaller than the length of this compartment was just simply so this would fit on the bed of my Bamboo printer rather than doing it on the Neptune 4 Max. The Bamboo's a lot faster. We would have been well into tomorrow if I printed this on the Neptune 4 Max, even without making it longer. But I kind of like that it slides back and forth. In fact, I was originally thinking all the way up here at the front, but now that I can kind of play with it, kind of like it pushed back. And that gives me the option of maybe having something else up front here too. Or we could just, make a spacer up here as well. I do want them closer together. I don't like having the gap there. Although, I guess if I'm going to pull these out, I'm probably going to do it from this end, thinking if I bring them together, then I lose the option to reach in here with my index finger from this side to grab them out. Yeah, I think it makes more sense to just grab by the hex. I mean, right now they're all too snug in here because these holes closed up. I'm on the fence as to whether we put numbers on these. Obviously, they're marked here. We could see that really nice right now. Let me actually bring the camera over to the center. All right, from this angle, I think you guys can see what I'm talking about. So we've got this nice flat part down the middle. Now that's going to get cut in half when I bring these closer together, but there will still be a surface there that we could put markings on if we wanted to. Should we label these, or do we just leave it blank? I'm on the fence. If we only have one out, clearly we know where it goes back, right? I'm not going to look at those labels. But if we've got a bunch out, it might be nice to have them marked. Now, we're going to lose visibility because these are going to get closer together at the top. So we might not even be able to see the markings. but we will see the markings if a bunch of them are out, because it's the wrenches themselves that would block our visibility down into that middle. Now, let me know down in the comments, what would you guys do? Do you think I should label these? It's definitely going to be a much slower print, but that's fine. We'll have an entire week to do this. Just sort of connecting all the dots in the geometry did actually kind of work, but I can see some opportunities for improvement. Like up here at the front, there's really no reason to have this extra face. I could continue this line straight down, just extend that edge so that the geometry here looks more uniform. Same thing at the top and the back, although I mean we don't even really see that, but there's no reason not to clean it up. What else am I missing? I am really liking the overall design. I was originally thinking that this was going to be something that was really only a fit for me here in my shop for my specific use case, but even just down here at bench height, it's really nice having them at this angle. You can easily see the markings on each one, and if these weren't so tight, you know, they'd slide right out instead of grabbing the whole base here. I'm thinking that this is probably going to be a nice to have for anybody that has a set of these Klein T-handles. I might do another version for you guys that has a wider base. My base is the exact width, the maximum width that I could fit in that space, and then it gets wider as it goes to the top. If you don't have that constraint of trying to fit this in the top of a narrow section of a toolbox, I think I'd make the base bigger. But yeah, I mean, I could even see just grabbing this whole thing out of the toolbox and popping it on my tool cart, or even bringing it down here to the workbench to use just like this, because it's just, they're all right in front of you, lined up. All right, guys, as I look at the clock, it is 10 minutes after 10 p.m. Eastern time here, and I still have to get all this footage off the camera and actually edit it. So we're not going to be able to do any more iterating on this today, but let me know down in the comments. Number one, if you guys think I should label the center section, and number two, if there's anything else you would do to this that I'm just not thinking of right now. Guys, as always, thanks for joining me in the shop for today's design and the first part of our build. If this is by chance your first time here in the channel, this is all we do on this channel. It's all functional printing. We don't do any, you know, multicolored garbage junk that's just a download of the week. It's all functional designs like this. A lot of stuff out here in the shop. We do stuff outside and around the house as well. So if this is your first time here, check out some of the other videos on the channel. If you like what you see, hit that subscribe button. And guys, if you do, I'll see you next Friday.